We're going to talk all those things. But I have to start with, you mentioned a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, about some dude who was a theologian who had an interview with Billy Carson, right?
Yeah, Wesley Huff.
Wesley Huff.
Did you listen to his thing on Rogan?
So I did. When you mentioned it, I'm like, cool. I'd like to know who that was, what that was. And I didn't give it any more thought after that. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
So then I watched Rogan, and then he was talking about it, and I'm like, oh, this is the guy Steve was talking about. So I listened to Rogan's whole thing. Then I went and listened to the interview, which isn't easy to find, by the way.
No, because Carson's trying to have it scrubbed.
Yeah. So anyway, but the guy that originally posted it, anyway, it's out there. So I listened to that whole thing. And then I listened to Wesley Huff on his podcast talk with his other guys about that, how it went down. And then I listened to...
Wow, you went way deep on this whole... I like it.
This is an entire day of my life, by the way. And then I listened to Billy Carson. So it's not up anymore, but people have spliced together some things. Apparently, he did a 3-hour rebuttal to Wesley Huff, but I guess he took it down. And
Carson's did a rebuttal to Huff?
Yeah, and Wesley Huff was saying that, he's like, before I would give Billy the benefit of the doubt, saying maybe he had just not dug deep enough. He had a surface level knowledge of this thing. Maybe he was misled by other people. He's like, but now I know that he's just completely willing to make things up.
Yeah.
He went on and said that Wesley Huff was part of a RICO investigation. He's been paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to like...
The 33-year-old theologian student.
Yeah, who's been, paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go after people.
Come on,
go
Billy,
after
you're
Billy
better
Carson
than that.
Personally. And Wesley's like, my wife looked at me, he's like, what a waste of money. You spent all that money going after Billy Carson.
Yeah.
He's like, so he's just completely willing to make things up. And he went on with some other wild shit. I wish I would have wrote it down, but I was driving. Like, Billy Carson is a fucking con man.
Yeah. I listened to the full Wesley Huff, Joe Rogan interview, and I thought it was awesome, dude. I thought it was great.
Yeah. So once I saw like, oh, this dude's a legit expert, and then I went and watched. This is exactly what I wanted from the moment I found Billy Carson, because I don't know enough to dispute what he's saying.
Because he makes some fantastical claims that you're like, holy shit.
And it sounds super cool. I'm like, wow, that would be amazing.
It's entertaining.
But like I told you when I listened to it, from the very first time I heard him, my bullshit meter was pegged.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know enough to say you're wrong, but someone's telling me you're full of shit. And then Wesley Huff, very politely, very cordially,
eloquently
told him you are full of shit.
Yeah.
And Billy's like, oh, okay, that's fine. That sounds great. But what about this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this? And he's like,
I like it when he goes, oh, you're talking about the ancient Codex Sinaiticus or whatever? And he's like, I got it right here on my shelf. And he turns around and grabs it off his bookshelf. Like, who the fuck carries ancient Codex?
Yeah, you see this papyrus thing I have on my shelf here? It's like, I made that when I did that. So, like, this dude has a depth of knowledge far beyond what Billy Carson was saying. Billy Carson was mentioning certain texts, how Jesus Christ was never crucified, and that's what it says in the Sinai Bible. And Wesley Huff goes on.
And that was like the Zechariah Stitchin.
Yeah. He goes on to all kinds of things. And then Billy keeps trying to bring back, what about this and this? He's like, well, that is considered widely by everybody that knows anything to be a forgery.
Right.
Like,
well, and the cool thing about the Rogan interview is he actually breaks down like how they decide what's a forgery and what's not.
Yes.
And he's like, when he starts talking, he goes into these processes. Like, you can tell this dude is fucking educated.
Yeah,
like
big time.
And Rogan breaks it down very well, kind of in the beginning when they start talking about the battle that they had. Like, if you're an expert in something, like you wake up from a dead sleep, rub the sleep out of your eyes, and you can talk about it factually. Well,
because that was one of the things that Billy Carson was saying, that he was, number one.
I must have misspoke. I must have misquoted.
He was ambushed. Number one, he was ambushed. There was another thing. They used AI to do some deep fake type things.
Oh, is that what he said?
He said, just before this, I was sick. I was just fighting to stay alive while I was on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
And I was tired.
Even though he knew about it in advance and the whole deal. Yeah.
And that's why Rogan, this dude is
his buddy's the one that set it up.
I guess their wives are friends. They live in the same neighborhood.
Not
he was
anymore.
in Billy's wedding. Their kids play together.
Not anymore.
So he was not trying to ambush Billy. He's like, I was giving Billy what I thought he wanted. He keeps saying all the time, no one will debate me.
Yep.
And then he let him know that he was coming on. And anyway, so Billy goes through all that shit trying to discredit them. And like, dude, you're just full of shit. That's why Rogan says, like, I'm an expert in very few things, but the things I'm an expert in,
I'll talk to you about any time of day.
He said, you can wake me up out of dead sleep, give me a couple seconds to rub my eyes, and they're like, oh yeah. They're like, that's wrong. Like, if you're an expert, you're an expert any time of day. So that dude is a fucking scam artist.
Yeah.
And
con man.
He mentioned one thing that got me, And he was talking, Billy Carson, in the interview with Wesley Huff, he was saying something about traveling all over the world. He's like, yeah, I spend like 8 months out of the year traveling. Like, I leave my I leave my big mansion here and I have to go travel like in hotels and stuff.
Billy
like,
says that?
Yeah, like, your big mansion, huh? Like, oh, you're a fucking con man.
Yeah.
Like, you're just scamming people out of money. Like, not that getting money from your expertise.
No, but he's flaunting
thing.
it. He's yeah.
He's a fucking con man.
Yeah.
So fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy, dude.
Fuck him.
Fuck him.
So I still thought it was all entertaining up until that point. I think the everything he said was so fantastical that like we had said, your bullshit meter was pegged, but there is a level of entertainment value to that. That's hard to dispute because you don't know. We don't read, the Emerald tablets or fucking whatever, Emerald scrolls.
It
or
would
whatever
make
the
a
fuck they
great
were.
movie.
It would
Stargate.
make a great movie. However, I think the entertainment value, for me personally, and that like I really liked the Billy Carson things because I thought it was entertaining.
I did
It was another vantage point. The entertainment value with somebody who is actually a expert in the subject, battling him back and putting him in his place. I find the entertainment value of that more so than what Billy was doing.
Yeah. And Billy was trying to say, it's like, well, let's not talk about this anymore. That's like 1% of everything that I'm saying. And Wesley Huff brought the point. He's like, I don't think he got what this is in his rebuttal thing. He's like, I don't think that he got what I was saying there. He's like, I was saying that I kept going back to these things because you're so incredibly wrong over here. I can't listen to anything you're saying over here. I'm not an
this automatically discredits all that.
I'm not an expert in what you're trying to say over here, but everything you're saying over here is wrong. And so many things that he says biblically, he bases a lot of things that he talks about on biblical texts. Yeah. And if you are so incredibly wrong there, I can't believe any of this other shit you're saying.
Right.
That's what it gets like.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I was glad I had a chance to listen to that.
If you care to listen to, let's see, you won't find Billy Carson's rebuttal anymore, but that was 3 hours. Wesley Huff's thing on his podcast was about an hour 20, I think. So there's 420. And then Rogan was what?
2.5 to 3.
Yeah. So you're going to invest 7 hours of your day listening to this. Worth it.
But if you're homesick,
you
get that bug that's going around.
Or if you're at the fire station, just plug in your ear pods all day and walk around and listen to that shit.
Yeah. Ignore everybody else around you.
All right. Had to get that out of the way because it's top of my mind.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm glad you brought that up.